What's happening, guys? We're back, and today we're gonna pull the motor back out. All right, we're back. Last week we built that jig for the front suspension, and I said that this week we would raise the chassis up so that we can get a better idea how those two interact. So first thing we're gonna do today is grab the engine hoist and engine stand, and we'll pull the motor out and get that pushed off to the side, so then we can kind of move the chassis around a little easier. So let's do it. Those are still very heavy. We got the engine and transmission out. I'll clear the rest of that junk out of there in a minute. And then I grabbed this is what's been holding the chassis up off the table for the last little bit. Cut these a while ago. I cut these to 6 1/4 long. So they've been sitting like this for the past little bit. But I cut them so that I can stand them up on end, and that should be ride height. So let's pull the rest of that junk out of there and then flip all these on end. Alright, it was a little wobbly with it up on those these posts on end. So I just threw a clamp over top each one of the posts and now it's nice and sturdy to the table. So we'll grab the suspension jig, toss it up there, measure out where it needs to be, and hopefully it'll sit proper. All right, so with the frame at 6 1/4, we set this up at 12 inches off of our theoretical ground surface. The wheel and tire package is like 24-inch diameter, so that should be pretty accurate where the spindle's gonna sit. So then we put these ball joints kind of right in the middle of their pivot, which is kind of where we want them to be at rest, so that they got the maximum travel before they start to bind. And if we draw a straight line kind of where that lower A-arm is going to sit, it ends up just below the frame rail, which according to my my suspension calculator online is right about where I want the pickup points for these lower A-arms. So that's perfect. Obviously I can't build that lower A-arm because I still don't have a welder. And I also want to take a couple more measurements off of here and double check it on that, I think it's called VSUP, the suspension calculator online. Make sure that all the values are correct, and before we start actually welding them up. So this looks good. This is a good place to start mocking up A-arms, but we can't do anything else here. So before we shut you guys down for the day, I want to show you the cowl. We had a bit of an issue there last week, so I'll pull that out and show you guys where we're at. All right, here's the cowl. We had a bit of an issue on this. While we were priming it last week, I started to notice kind of some spider webbing right here in the flat kind of plate on the front. I tried to ignore it and just paint over it and hope that it would just go away. Of course it didn't. It got worse. It got to the point that the paint was actually flaking off and making big divots on the face. So I think what was happening was, previously we used this mold to create that cowl that we've been using. And when we did that, we waxed this with release wax. And before we started this second round of mold making, we went through and sanded it, but I just don't think that we did a good enough sanding of the center section because it was too flexible. So I think that there was still some residual wax there. So obviously the paint's not going to stick to the wax. That's the wax doing its job. So last week I guess, I actually took the orbital sander to this and took it right back down to foam, and now I'm building it back up with drywall mud. So we got quite a bit of work yet to do on this now, again, to get it back to where it was last time you guys saw it. So I'm gonna do that in the background. Hopefully by next week I'll have it back to where it was last week, and we can just kind of continue on with that mold making process. So I'm gonna do that. But that's where we're gonna end the episode. So thank you so much for watching, you guys. I know we didn't actually add anything to the car, but you know, there's a lot of days of just doing this kind of work. So if you haven't already, hit the like and subscribe button. Go check us out on Instagram. We're Leftfootfirst Media, and we'll see you next week. I'm out of here.